Hey all, Flame here, and welcome to the FlameHisWorld commentary of Shovel Knight, Shovel of Hope. This is the base game for Shovel Knight. It's the first of the campaigns that was released, and of course since then there's been more expansion campaigns that have come out. There's been Plague of Shadows, there's been Spectre of Torment, and there's also the upcoming King of Cards campaign that hasn't got a release date now to my knowledge, and also there's a fighting game spin-off thing coming as well that I'm not entirely sure how that works, but for the time being we're going to be playing through the first campaign, Shovel of Hope. And yeah, this game was developed by Yacht Club Games, an indie studio, and this game has kind of become a bit of an indie darling at this point. It's one of the go-to games that people think of when they think of popular indie games, and Shovel Knight himself as a character has showed up pretty much everywhere at this point. You know, he's an assist trophy in Smash, and you know, if there's an indie game coming out that needs Kickstarter money or whatever, they will more than likely give Shovel Knight a cameo because, you know, Shovel Knight has just become such a popular character. My takes on that, a little bit mixed, and I'll probably end up going into that more later on in the playthrough. But for now, here is our story here, which features the titular Shovel Knight, and the other character there was Shield Knight. Pretty much the story that you need to know is we've got to go save Shield Knight. That's the basic motive for Shovel Knight here, why he's going to do what he's doing. It is a little bit more nuanced than that, but given this game is built very much in the style of more traditional retro platformers, they've kept the story fairly simple as well, so, you know, I can kind of appreciate why it is how it is. But what they're, I guess you could say, lacking in story, they're definitely making up for in character design. As you can see, the characters of the Order of No Quarter just then on screen. You know, they've got some really well developed designs there that I do like. But what I will say is, this playthrough, I'm doing this quite a bit differently to how I usually approach LPs. Usually what I would do is I would play through and record the entire game, and then I would start planning out my commentary, and you would get kind of a, not really a review because that's far too structured and organised for what my playthroughs usually end up being, but you would kind of have a full game critique as I go through it, whereas that's not what I'm doing here. I have actually never beaten Shovel Knight in its entirety, not the original campaign that we're playing here, not any expansions. No, this is my first time playing through the game in full, and I am doing it basically level by level. At the time of recording this first part's commentary, I have both this intro stage and the first boss character stage, I guess probably the best way to put them. I've got them recorded, and I'm going to be doing it bit by bit. That's kind of just, I'm trying something different here, and I'm hoping that it'll give this commentary a little bit of spice to differentiate it from my usual, here's another 2D platformer I've played through, so, you know, like, I'm basically switching things up a little bit before I start rambling about nothing for far too long, because this is only the first part already. But yeah, the structure of this game is very much your, I guess, Mega Man kind of approach of, you have the Mega Man X style intro level here, and then you go on to each level with its own boss at the end that you have to face off against. This intro level here pretty much exists just to give you a feel for Shovel Knight's main mechanics. What Shovel Knight can do, he can run, he can jump, and he can smack things with his shovel, as you may expect from a guy called Shovel Knight. But the other thing that you will see him do throughout this playthrough is actually one of my favourite features of the game. Bringing it back from the likes of DuckTales NES, you've got the pogo mechanic. Shovel Knight can jump on his shovel and bounce up and down, like bouncing off of enemies and destructible objects like you see in there. if I actually land it properly, but hey, I'm not going to be doing a perfect run here, I'll say that up front. But yeah, that is one thing that I kind of will say in advance. I will try my best here to get the best possible run of each level down that I can. That may not hold up too well, because although I've seen playthroughs and whatnot of this game before, it's been quite a while, and I can't remember how difficult this game gets later on, so I may end up having to, you know, do a few sneaky little edits here and there, but we'll see. Like, I can usually get away with just bluffing my way through playthroughs of hard games with save states, but obviously given this is a modern game, I don't have that luxury, so, you know, I'll play it by ear. And the other thing that I'll say about this game's level design, as you're seeing on screen right now, this game does have quite a few secrets. We'll see what those music sheet things are later on in this part. Actually, we'll meet the character who will be interested in us having those. When you're playing through this game, I've found from what I've played so far, it's a good idea to just keep an eye out for bits of terrain that look like you can smack them, and maybe you can reveal things behind them, and you know, it's all cool. It encourages you to explore the levels, which I do really like. And it also gives you opportunities to collect more money in the form of these jewels and golden plates and whatnot, which I think is really cool. It's another thing that encourages replayability, and it'll also come in handy later on when we get to the village, and we'll be able to upgrade our different skills and our health and all the stuff that you might want to upgrade as you're getting towards harder bosses later on in the game. Which, you know, that's a more modern thing. Although back in the day, a few games did that as well. Like, I think from Mega Man 7 onwards, you had like the system where you could collect the nuts as you go through levels, and then you could trade them in a auto shop. I think the guy was called Auto, the big robot dude. It's been a very long time since I played Mega Man 7 because I'm not that big on that game, I will say. But come to think of it, like, some of the Game Boy games had that as well. In Mega Man 4 Game Boy, you had them little pellets you could pick up, and I believe they returned in 5 as well. I've played those games on FlameHisWorld before, so if you're interested, you can check out the playlists. But that's not why we're here right now. We're here for the game that I'm starting to dig a lot. Okay, that's the quota field, so I've got that one out of the way. Now I can do actual commentary. And hopefully this playthrough will also sound pretty good as well, because this is the first one I'm recording with my new Audio-Technica headset. It was a very expensive headset that I upgraded because from the Retrophone I realised that my old Microsoft Live Chat headset wasn't really cutting it anymore, getting a little bit scratchy, and I figured given this microphone is a lot better than a typical one, I would give it a shot with a playthrough as well. If everyone likes how it sounds, I'll keep with this. If not, I'll go back to the regular mic. But no time for tech waffling here. Here is the first boss. This is Black Knight. He is an old rival of Shovel Knight, and he's pretty much a mirror match. He can do what Shovel Knight can do. So he seems to be guarding the character, the Enchantress, who is pretty much the big bad behind this game. But to go into actual fight specifics, just keep jumping and hitting him. You might take a few hits as I'm doing here because, you know, it's one of them games that it feels like it pays more to just go in for the kill, at least in terms of how it's satisfying for me. Sometimes I'll get knocked about, but I also am doing more to him than he's doing to me, so it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. I can just keep on whacking him, and there we go. The flashing lights out, I'm glad they toned them down compared to a lot of older games that had a similar effect, because a lot of those older NES games, like some of the Legend of Zelda games, and I remember quite a few things had effects like that that would really aggressively flash the colours of the screen, and that gets kind of uncomfortable to look at, and that's uncomfortable to look at to me as someone who doesn't really have any health issues related to photosensitivity or anything like that. But I would imagine, like, if you do, then some of those games would really be a problem for you to watch and play. And yeah, it was all a dream. But yeah, you will notice throughout this playthrough, a lot of the time when I'm in levels, I will be picking up as many jewels and collectibles as I can, just because they will come in handy, and it saves me doing a lot more backtracking. But you know, like I say, I'm doing this playthrough pretty much by ear, so if I do a little bit of backtracking here and there, I might show it off, but if it becomes a lot, then I'll probably just skip to when we get to the new stuff. But this bard here, he is the character who will want the music sheets we've been collecting. His gimmick is that when you collect music sheets, you can sell them to him, and he will have more songs available to play. And I think this is a good time to bring up this game's soundtrack, which is absolutely fantastic. The music is incredibly fitting, not only for the style of game, but also for the pumping energy that you're going to want as you go from level to level, smacking things with your shovel. I love this soundtrack. This soundtrack was composed by Jake Kaufman, who's also done a few Way Forward games. I think he's done some of the Shantae ones, but don't quote me on that. I haven't played anything from that series. But he's also done the DuckTales Remastered soundtrack, which is absolutely fantastic. The rearrangements in DuckTales Remastered compared to the original NES game, they are just amazing. And this is just another one of his fantastic soundtracks in this game. But this area here, this is the village. This seems to be the main kind of hub world area. You come here when you want to upgrade your skills. You can get magic from the character on the right there, and you can get health from the character on the left. You buy these meal tickets and you take them to the chef guy. The gastronomer. That took me a couple of takes to pronounce that properly just then, so be grateful I'm cutting stuff down here. But yeah, you know, you will want to upgrade stuff as you go along. It just makes the game that little bit easier. I would imagine there are people who do challenge runs where they just, you know, go through without getting any upgrades, but I am not elite enough for that. For this first part, I am going to show off the other characters that you see in this basement area here. I will probably be keeping the revisits to the village brief in future parts, just to kind of keep things moving along. But you know, we get a few different characters telling us to come back here when we've beat certain bosses. And we've got this character here who I like. She keeps track of random bollocks that no one would ever expect them to have accounted for, like the amount of piles of dirt we've dug up, the amount of times we've died, you know, stuff that most games wouldn't bother keeping a tally of, but this game does and lets you come and see it at any time, and I appreciate that. That is partially coming from me as an absolute stats whore, but I almost likely come and check that out when I've beat the game and try and get some numbers together and see how well I did. But Mona here is a character hidden off to the side here, and she has a little mini game for us. So yeah, pretty self-explanatory. You hit the bottles, the chemicals and whatnot, and try and hit the ones at the top. The ones at the side give you points as well, but the ones at the top give you the most. Given I want to try and do my best here, I'll aim for the ones at the top where I can, although aiming for the green one on either side is pretty much your safe bet. You know, you're less likely to miss it, but it's also not a useless 1 point only deal like the blue ones. I don't really have any strategy for this minigame, given it's incredibly self-explanatory, so I hope the visuals on the screen are doing what they need to do here. See how we did. 159 points. Now, come on, love, you can act at least a little bit impressed there. Like, we were jumping around, smacking shit with our shovel. We should get some kind of appreciation, not a, like, through the teeth, yawn, I guess you did well, kind of thing. Oh, hail the Truffle King. Yes, this world building, like, it is kind of a little bit, I guess, cheesy and a little bit over the top, but at the same time, you know, it's kind of endearing at the same time. And this guy, I know they're presenting him here like he's a little bit crazy. There is actually a Truffle King, though, that we'll be seeing in the next part, just because I decided to go to him after I'd got done with King Knight stage. But that little chalice that we picked up there will be useful then. But this character, Chester, he is the one who provides us with access to these relics. And what they do is they give us additional skills that we can use in levels just to help us out. This Chaos Sphere is basically an attack that you can just fire forward. But in order to use those, you will need to preserve your magic. You start off with 30 magic, and from buying more from that character up there, we'll get more uses per stage. But you know, like, I'm upgrading one thing at a time, and I kind of figured that getting the health upgraded was a bit more of a priority to start with. Because I'm trying to run through these levels without dying as much as I can. Like I say, that may change in harder levels, but we'll see as and when we get there. And I'm trying to bait this character over here for a bit of cheeky platforming over here. So, yes, we have many trials to go, as teased by the seer there. And, ladies and gentlemen, join me next time where we'll be going to Pridemore Keep. Bye bye for now.